just like desire trees who can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen. All right, gang. Hare Krishna. Okay. No bugs. Jaya Radhamadhava Kunya Bihari Jaya Radhamadhava Kunya Bihari Gopi Jana Malaba Giribada Dhagute Gopi Jana Malaba Giribada Dhagute Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjaguna Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjaguna Jamuna Tera Panachade Yamuna Tera Panachade Jayaranu Madhova Kunjabi Kagote Jayaranu Madhova Kunjabi Kagote Gopi Nanamanaba Girivada Dhagute Gopi Nanamanaba Girivada Dhagute Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tera Panachade Yamuna Tera Panachade Jayaranu Madhava Kunja Bihagute Jayaranu Madhava Kunja Bihagute Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravidika Acharya also cannot see Shiva. His divine grace by assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Pudale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Samani Chinamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nivashesha Shunyavadi Pashacha Deshatarni. All right, so we are reading from the Shrimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 48th chapter, text 18, sorry. I was ahead of myself. Text 18. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yuvang Pradana Purusha Jagat Detu Jagan Mayao Pavadvyam Na Vina Kinchit Parang Asti Na Chaparam Yuvam Pradana Purusha Jagadetu Jaganmaya Bhavadvyam Na Bina Kinchit Paramasti Na Chaparam Yuvam Pradana Purusha Jagadhetu Jaganmaya Vavadvyang Na Vina Kinchit Paramasti Na Chaparam Yuvam Pradana Purusha Jagadhetu Jaganmaya Vavadvyam Na Vina Kinchit Paramasti Na Chaparam. Okay. Yuvam, you too. Pradana, Purusha, the original persons. Jagat, of the universe. Hetu, the causes. Jagat Mayao, identical with the universe. Bhavadbyam, than you. Na, not. Vina, apart from. Kinchit, anything. Param, cause. Asti, there is. Nacha, nor. Aparam, product. Translation, you both are the original Supreme Person, the cause of the universe and its very substance. Not the slightest subtle cause or manifest product of creation exists apart from you. So you can repeat, you both are the original Supreme Person, the cause of the universe and its very substance. Not the slightest subtle cause or manifest product of creation exists apart from you. So, purport, by these servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. After praising Krishna and Balarama for having saved their dynasty, Akrura now points out that the Lord actually has no mundane connection with any social or political institution. He is the original personality of Godhead, performing His pastimes for the benefit of the entire universe. So, let's see, there's commentaries. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura's commentary here. You have protected this dynasty and increased this prosperity. It is not surprising, since the whole universe belongs to you. The dual case is used because the Lord appears in two forms. That's Krishna and Balarama. And also, you are the Pradana and you are the Purusha. There's two others there. Pradana, of course, means the basically the cause of the material creation, or the sometimes it's described as the unmanifest state of the modes of material nature. And Purusha means the person, like the Mahavishnu. You are the cause, Jagadetu, and you are the effect, Jagan Mayao. By negation, Akrura expresses the same idea. Without you, there is no cause and no effect. And so Jiva Goswami's commentary is very similar, except there's one quote he gives here. Asij Gyanamato Arta Ekam Evad Vikalpitam. Yadavivego Nipuna Adao Krita Yuge Yuge. Originally during Sat Yuga, when all men were expert in spiritual discrimination, and also during the period of annihilation, the Lord was complete, one alone, without difference. Tan Maya Palavrupena Kevalam Nirvikalpitam Vanmano Gocharam Satyam Veda Samad Bhavad. Then one entity, remaining free from material dualities, divided himself into two categories, Prakriti and Jiva, which are beyond the words and mind and which are real. That's from the Shrimad Bhagavatam 11:24, 2-3. And that's the end of those commentaries. So let's go back to the verse. Whoops. So Yuvam Pradana Purushao Jagande tu Jaganmayao Bhavadhyang Nabhanakinchit Paramasti Nachaparam. So Om Agana Timaranda Shah Gananjana Shlakya Chakshur Unmiditam Yena Tasmai Shigarvena Maha. So we should really understand that the philosophy of Achincha Beta Tattva is being presented in this verse by Akrura. And one thing, actually several things, is that I wanted to point out. It talks about that sometimes there's verses that when the Lord desired to enjoy, he made himself many. I don't remember the Sanskrit for this verse, but it's a common verse that Prabhupada often quotes, Bahusham, that Krishna made himself many. We should understand this doesn't mean that at one point there weren't many, and at some point there were many. Or it's not when in terms of material time. It's just like, it's basically a poetic statement. Try to understand that. There's not a question that at one point Krishna was there all alone, and he just decided at one point, hey, I'm all alone, I'm lonely, and let me just create some of these nice jiva souls and send some of them to hell, and some of them stay with me. No. Nasato, anyway, so the Jayate, Riyate, Vakatachan, the soul's never had any birth or death, nor having once been does he ever cease to be. He's unborn, primeval, and not slain when the body is slain. So we're eternal. Nitya shashvato yam parano nahanyate hanyamane sharire. So it's not a question at a certain time, because Krishna is eternal time in the spiritual world. So, and also hear these descriptions in terms of Krishna expanding himself, in terms of his various expansions, like Lord Balaram, Vishnu Tattva expansions. And sometimes you hear this description that appears to be time-bound in relationship to, Krishna and Radharani are one, but then Krishna decided to expand himself like that. So it's not really a when factor. It's that Krishna always wants to enjoy himself. And Krishna was never lonely. And all these entities, whether they're Jiva Tattva, Shakti Tattva, whatever, are always present. Try to understand that. They're always there. Sometimes, like the Jiva Tattva, sometimes they're in a nascent state. It means sleeping. And sometimes they're awake. But they're always there. They're always existing. It's not that we cease to exist when we go to sleep. It's not that we start to exist when we wake up in the morning. We're always existing. So that's the first point I wanted to make, because one may get confused about these time-bound explanations that one is hearing in the purports. And then it's interesting that a Krura is making this point that Krishna's everything comes from him. There's not something that appears separately from him. And of course, there's many verses in the Bhagavad Gita that corroborate this fact. It was in it. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam pravarte matva bhajanti bam buddha bhava samamvita. One of our nutshell verses, 10:8 in the Bhagavad Gita, right? Everybody knows the verse? No. Anyway, there's 4 nutshell verses. Beginning with 10th chapter, 8th is the first one. I am the source of everything. From me, the entire creation flows. Those who know this worship me with all their hearts, and then the machata, magata, prana, potyantas cha, paras param. Therefore, they're always chanting and hearing about me, and then I give them intelligence by which they can come to me, and I destroy. I'm just summarizing these 4 nutshell verses. I destroy the ignorance, hamajnana tamaha, the ignorance comes in this material world. So I think this is really important. There's other statements in the Bhagavad Gita too, in the 9th chapter in particular, that really get into more details on Krishna's what we call ontological position. And the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is quite interesting because it really brings out Achincha Bheda Bheda Tattva in the beginning of the 9th chapter. But it also gives the prerequisite. Okay, slow down. It also gives the prerequisite. Talk about myself. It's a message to myself. Sometimes when I have a lot of energy, I start going fast. Okay, slow down, Maharaj. So it also gives the prerequisites for understanding Achincha Bheda Bheda Tattva philosophy. It's interesting. Before presenting Achincha Bheda Bheda Tattva, then what is the prerequisite? Idam tu te guyattamam pravaksham anusuyave gana viganam sahitam yad gatva moksha se shubha. Idam tu te guyattamam, because you are not envious of me. Anusuyave means like not envious. So most of us in this material world, we have this quality of envy. And Prabhupada describes this quality in terms of wanting to be, well, Krishna also says it, Ishwaraham aham bhogi siroham balavanzuki, the center. And, that quality is sometimes manifest by our vanity. I mean, women and men are both vain in different ways. It's very interesting. Just like sometimes if you give, so I'm going to give an example I experienced recently, that you say to someone, oh, you need a hearing aid, but they definitely want a hearing aid that's going to what? Not be visible, go into their ear, an invisible hearing aid. So rather than something, I mean, some people have no false ego, they sometimes have the hearing aid. Like Prabhu, he has no false ego. So he has a hearing aid like that, but like for me, I don't have a hearing aid. But if I did, I would have a big false ego. I wouldn't want to sing, as I take my pictures and put them on Facebook, me and the guitar, it's just big false ego guy in the name of sannyas. So anyway, so we're envious. We want to really be, Facebook. Pictures of me, with my baby. Of course, I don't have a baby. But pictures of someone with their baby, someone with their family, my new hairstyle. I don't have to worry about that one. And so that's like envy. And because if we're envious of Krishna or envious of anybody, because if we're envious of anyone, we're actually envious of Krishna. We should understand that. Because everyone's connected with Krishna, as the point was brought out here. One sense, everything's Krishna. In another sense, everything's different from Krishna. So if you're envious of anyone or anything, like this verse in the Ishopanishad. What is it? Yastu sarvani. Slow down. Yastu sarvani bhutani atman evanu pashati. Isn't it? Sarvabhuteshu chatmanam tato navigupshate. It says that one who sees things connected to Krishna is not envious of any, someone who is connected to Krishna is not envious of anyone or anything, or hate anyone or anything. So really, that's a prerequisite to understand a Chinchabeta Beta Tattva. Idam tu te guyatamam prabhaksha anasuyave. And in this way, not only will we get this knowledge, jnana, but jnana is not enough. Jnana vijnana sahitam. Then you get realization, right? Jnana vijnana sahitam. Yad gatva, attaining this, moksha se, Shubat, you will get liberated from this material world. And then the next verse in the 9th chapter is, of course, a famous verse, Raja Vijaya Raja Guyam Pavichalmi Damutma Prachaksha Bhagavam Dharmyam Shushakam Kartamavyam, right? In this way, this is the king of all knowledge. Again, this whole point of Achincha Beta Tattva is being presented here. It's the topmost knowledge, the king of all knowledge. And then Krishna really gets in. Oh yeah, then he also says another point, the third verse is actually another disqualification. Ashradana Purusha Dharmashasha Param Prabha Aprapyamam Nivartante Mritu Samsara Vartmani, right? Everyone knows this verse. Ashradana Purusha, those who don't have that faith, in other words, those who don't. Shraddha, which I've described previously in class, means to actually shakda, to give your heart to Krishna. It's not simply you believe in Krishna. It means that you've actually given your heart. And sometimes we find people in different persuasions saying you simply have to believe and you'll be saved, right? But then I give the example that a criminal believes that the police exist. When I'm driving down the road, of course I'm not a criminal, when I'm driving down the road, I believe that there are police there with radar and speed detectors. So I believe it, and therefore I behave myself. But I don't have faith in them. It's not that I'm just like so happy that they're there. I'm not happy they're there. I'm miserable that they're there, so I can't enjoy myself. So, so isn't it? I mean, just every time I see a policeman with his radar detector, I go, oh, I feel symptoms of ecstasy. No, I just say, thank God I didn't get caught. And I keep looking behind me. You ever had that experience? You pass a policeman, you think you're going a little fast, and you just like keep looking behind you. Hope he's not following me. Oh God, thank God he's not following me. So, Sradhana Purusha Dharma Shasha Parandapa Aprapyamam Nivartante Mritu Samsara Varmani. Those who don't have that faith, haven't given their heart to Krishna, they can't understand. Purusha, those persons. Dharma Shasha Parantapa, this Krishna consciousness, Dharma. And of course he's addressing Arjuna, what Parantapa, mighty armed one. They cannot achieve me. And the Prapyamam Nivartante, Mritu Samsara Vartmani, they just come back to repeated birth and death. So anyways, so Krishna gives it all these different injunctions or these restrictions or requirements insofar as understanding this knowledge. And then he actually begins with the knowledge. Next verse. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagadavyakta murtina matstani sarvabhutani naham teshva svamastata. By me, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. And that's interesting because we know Krishna is in the heart. So Krishna says, all beings are in me. And that means in Krishna's material energy. But I am not in them. But Krishna's in the heart. But the Prabhupada describes that Krishna in the heart is like the reflection of the moon. It's not that Krishna is in the material body heart. It's not that when you do a heart operation, you discover floating in the blood, amongst the red corpuscles and the white corpuscles, there's a little Krishna. But he, and he manifests at a certain size, like 8 inches high, but that's in accordance with the body. It's like if you have different, the same thing as if you have different bodies of water or different mirrors, then the moon's reflection will appear bigger or smaller. Does that make sense? Like if you have, what is that big satellite that went up, the telescope? What is that? Hubble telescope. James, also Hubble. Hubble was the original one. It had a giant mirror. Of course, they discovered they had problems in the mirror, right? And then they had to fix the mirror. So, then the reflection would be actually bigger because it picks up more light. So that's the point. And then Krishna goes on and describe more. I'm not going to get into all the details because I have a lot more to say about other things. The chamatstani bhutani bhutabhin atjabhutasto. So, and he describes other aspects of this achintya beta tattva philosophy. And I have more verses that I wrote down about this, but I am not going to read all those verses. So if you're interested, you can read those verses in the Bhagavad Gita. Now, I wanted to get more into application, and actually what is going on here, which is really interesting. So what's going on here in my mind is that Akrura is contrasting what he said in the previous verse. What he said in the previous verse was in terms of his Krishna's dynasty, the family, and everything like that. And now he's expanding it. He's contrasting it with how Krishna is, or everyone's in Krishna's family. Isn't it? And I was thinking about this, that when one takes sannyas, of course this is not going to be a sannyas class, don't worry. So when one takes sannyas, one actually, because this is in relationship to what Leela Shakti was talking about yesterday about the dark hole or whatever. And, the dark hole in space that sucks everything into it. It's interesting. You talk about this gravitational dark hole, that once you enter it, you never get out. So it's, some people say it's a portal to another place in space, but that's another subject matter. So I was thinking about that, that particular example, that when in material household life, not spiritual household life, one is constrained and just thinks of a little tiny world, one's own tiny world. And then I was thinking of a particular quote from the teachings of Lord Chaitanya that Prabhupada gave about Lord Chaitanya taking sannyas. And it's such an interesting statement. It's about Lord Chaitanya taking sannyas. So I'll read the whole section. So it's described that some jealous and low-minded Brahmins of Kulia picked a quarrel with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and collected a party to oppose him. Teaching of Lord Chaitanya, I don't remember what chapter. Nimai Pandit was naturally a soft-hearted person, though strong in his principles. He declared that party feelings and sectarianism were two of the greatest enemies of progress. In other words, just thinking, my race, my family, my nationality. That's all, that's, like we think we're Americans or white or we're, even if we think, I'm special because I'm a devotee, it's the two greatest enemies of progress. Because everything's connected to Krishna. We're all brothers and sisters. We're all, Krishna's everywhere. And he saw that as long as he should continue to be an inhabitant of Nadia belonging to a certain family, this is contrast to what you talked about. This is not encouraging you to take sannyas, don't worry. Because I'm going to talk about this in the end if I have time. His mission would not meet with complete success. He then resolved to be a citizen of the world, or the universe, Prabhupada says world, by cutting off his connection with his particular family, caste, and creed. And with this resolution, he embraced the position of a sannyasi at Katwa under the guidance of Keshava Bharati of that town in the 24th year of his life. His mother and wife wept bitterly for his separation, but our hero, it's interesting the way Prabhupada expresses it, but our hero, Prabhupada said, these are all Prabhupada's words, which is just so sweet. Though soft at heart, was a strong person in his principles. Now here's the one sentence I was reminded of. He left his little world in his house for the unlimited spiritual world of Krishna with man in general. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna, and he's never confined to a little house, but out of pastimes, you understand? He's doing this. And then, okay, here's another one about sannyas life, which Prabhupada called skin disease. Not the sannyas life, but the previous attachment to one's particular family or one's particular nation, like that is skin disease. Prabhupada said, the creepers of miserly persons waste their time in being with a particular family, caste, or creed, and with his resolution, Lord Chaitanya embraced the position of sannyasi at Katwa. And that's pretty much the same thing. All right, let's see. And Prabhupada talks about how this sort of like attachment exists, even in the living entities, the animals sometimes, he said, even in the lower animals. And so to avoid that, these sannyasis would sometimes, like the Goswamis of Vrindavan, because even as a sannyasi, you take sannyasi, you can get attached to so many things. You get attached to your ashram, you can get attached to your car, you can get attached to your watch, you can get attached to your mobile phone. Like I described when I first took sannyas, in the beginning days, there weren't so many gadgets to get attached to, so everyone had to get a good watch. And, so we had some sannyasis with Rolexes. I didn't. I just had a Casio. And so, you go to GBC meeting, everybody would look at each other's watch. Now you go to GBC meeting, everyone looks at each other's Apple phone, not phone. Yeah, what is it called? Anyway, the Apple, whatever computer is called. I blocked it out because I don't like it. So anyways, the Mac. which is my brother's name. So, everybody, you could see that we get attached. So the Goswamis of Vrindavan, they would sleep under a different tree every night to not get attached. And they would do this madhukari, in which they would just take a little bit from each house. They wouldn't go to one person's house because he gave a bigger donation. And they would get one roti. And then another person's house, a roti means chapati, another person's house, another roti. So, Prabhupada talks about this, and another verse, this is from the 7th canto, 13th chapter, text 4, sannyasi should always try to see the Supreme, pervading everything and see everything, including this universe, resting on the Supreme. So that's a sannyasi's consciousness. And so there's so many quotes. And then also the Gita, my favorite verse, one who sees Krishna everywhere and sees everything in Krishna is never lost to him, nor is he ever lost to Krishna. And so what do we do when people are married? So here's the final point. Don't worry. I didn't want to leave this part out. So people who are married, let's use the example of Vyasadeva and Shukadeva Goswami. Srila Vyasadeva was married, and Shukadeva Goswami was not married. And so we have this example that Shukadeva Goswami, he ran by these girls who were bathing naked in the river, and they didn't cover themselves, and he wasn't covered either. So what's happening there? They could see that he was transcendental. And so when Srila Vyasadeva went by, they covered themselves up like that. What's going on there? I mean, he's transcendental. He's an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Well, the point is that to please Krishna, one has duties in terms of one's ashram. So to neglect those duties is sinful, because those duties are meant to please Krishna. And those duties should be seen as connected to Krishna. Just like a sannyasi is traveling around, hopefully. That's my desire. So, and a sannyasi is traveling around, and he should see everything, the forest and the trees. And incidentally, another thing is when the sannyasi went to the forest, he didn't just go alone into the forest. He went to an ashram of other sannyasis in the forest because he needed association. We mentioned this the other day. As far as Bharat Maharaj, he didn't have association and he had difficulty. So in the same way, the grahastha should see everything, his children and everything, as connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then he is as good as the sannyasi. And at the same time, he has to be cultivating, or he or she should be cultivating a mood of detachment. Or as Prabhupada said sometimes, that we act as if we're attached, and at the same time, there has to be that in the back of the mind, there's detachment going on. Which is, basically, which is what Prabhupada said. Internally, there has to be detachment going on. Because if one gets attached to anything, whether sannyasi or householder, this is actually detrimental to one's spiritual progress. So in other words, one has to see everything connected to Krishna, everything belonging to Krishna, Ishavashamidam sarvam jakajam jagat, tendajikjena punjarak margratha kashyas vidanam, everything meant to please Krishna. And in this way, a grahastha has to be better at taking care of his family than he would be previously, because if he's taking care of his family simply because of attachment, then that attachment will sometimes lead him to do things that are counterproductive to his family's spiritual advancement. You understand? As we've seen before, sometimes the grahasthas are very attached to their family, and it becomes attachment to their material upliftment to the exclusion of their spiritual advancement. I've seen this many times before. That's attachment in a material way. And then what happens is their children turn out to be nice little materialists. And they make a good living and everything like that. But that's material attachment. Material attachment means you're attached to your children because you want to enjoy them. And as I explained before, when you want to enjoy someone, a consequence of that is anger when you can't enjoy them. Right? So the same detachment has to be there. But for social convention purposes, the grahastha can't act like a sannyasi. But both the grahastha and the sannyasi have equal opportunity. And they have to see Krishna in everything and everywhere. And seeing Krishna, another point I wanted to make, which is a little bit disconnected, now I made my main point, was that seeing Krishna in everywhere and everything means also that we should see that whatever feelings, moods, and everything we have are originally coming from Krishna. That was another point, because in relationship to my class last night on the Chaitanya Bhagavad, when we heard about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu getting very, very angry, everybody, some of you heard this class. Lord Chaitanya was at home with Mother Sachi. This was after his father passed away. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to go to the river to bathe, and he needed some sandalwood and a garland. And he said to his mother, can you get me sandalwood and garland? She said, okay, I will get it. And he said to her in a very angry fashion, what? You will get it? In other words, why don't you have it right now, Ma? And he got so angry, he started to destroy everything in the house, tore everything, broke all the pots, threw all the food stuffs all over the place, broke the door down, started to smash a tree afterwards. And so, oh my God, and then started to hit the ground, finally fell asleep. So what's going on there? I mean, what Krishna is showing is that he's the enjoyer, and he's enjoying these different moods. And also he's also bringing out the intense mood of love of his mother, concern, because when a mother gets very, very concerned, it's more intense than practically anything else in this world. But he's showing that he's the original source of our anger, which is not enjoyable, and our lust, which is not enjoyable. So he's the original source of all these things. So whatever we see in this world, whatever we experience, we should understand Krishna is the original source, and he's the enjoyer of those things. And by connecting that, that's another point of seeing Krishna everywhere and everything. By connecting that, we will lose our own desires to be angry and to be lusty. Like Prabhupada said, if you hear about Krishna's Rasa Leela dance from the right source, then your own lust will dissipate from the right source. And hearing about Krishna's anger, just like when I heard about Krishna's anger last night, my anger went away. And one devotee wrote me a note. He said, he's a member of this community. He said, I'm glad to hear that, Guru Maharaj. So anyway, so these are some of the points from today's class. I tried to cover a lot of things. So thank you very much. All glorious to Prabhupada.
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham
Namahom Vishnupataya Krishna Prasthaya Mutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Samanichi Namane Namaste, Saraswati Devi, Gurvani Vaja, Nivesesha, Shunyavani, Asyachagade, Sacharane. Gurvani Vaja, Jai Sri Krishna Jai Tana Gauri Janana Jia Dvaita Gadada Sivasadi Gorak Grandana Sri Sari Gorak Sri Krishna Chaitanya Ramanuja Nando Vaita Radha Siva Sadi Norata Vrinda Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Ramanuja Nando Vaita Radha Siva Sadi Gaurabhakti Vrinda Sri Krishna Chaitanya Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Ramanuja Nando Vaita Radha Siva Sadi Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Madhya Kati Govinda Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Madhya Govinda Jaya Jaya. Jaya Radha Kulokanana Radha Kulokanana Radha De Jaya Radha Kulokanana Radha Kulokanana Radha De Jaya Radha Hey, Radhe, Radhe, Jaya Radhe. Jaya Radhe, 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 Jaya Radhe, Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Jai Om Vishnupad. Shila